All right, this is our second installment in the Reasonable Doubt series. I take a look at a room, position group, and decide, my opinion, whether or not there is a more reasonable doubt that the room will have trouble, or is it more reasonable to expect that they will do well. I did one on the offensive line because a lot of people are questioning this year's line. This time up, it's the defensive backfield because that seems to be the other of the top two questioned groups. So, before we get into all of that, this is WVU Football Going Deep. I am Forrest Poston. It is the 4th of July. So if you get rained out, here's a video for you to watch. Otherwise, when you come back from the cookout, fireworks, or whatever, you can watch then. And I do hope whenever you watch that you will click share, you will subscribe if you haven't done so. Click thumbs up, click the notification bell, and make comments that preferably are not too profane. All right, now, defensive backs. A lot of people are worried about the defensive backfield, and they seem to have two primary reasons. One, they don't think the defensive backfield was good last year, and they don't really believe, or they question whether or not the replacements and returning players will be good this year. Well, I think they're actually wrong on both counts because the defensive backfield was not the problem last year. Before we take a look at that, I'm going to take a look at what was available last year, expected to be available this year. Before the season started last year, we were looking at, for corner, Wilson, Lamp, Miller, Spells, Bishop, Ruffin, and Jackson. Safeties, Burks, Wilson, Floyd, and Tagaloa Nelson. Now that's not much even there. And I may have overlooked, these are just the scholarship players. I didn't include Wilcox. Then Wilson Lamp turned out to just be a mysterious bust. He played well enough in practice to get the starting spot, and in games his head just seemed to melt. Miller injured very early on, out for the season. Spells had some issues early, was playing well late, which meant Ruffin, and Jackson, a freshman, not ready to play. So Bishop and Ruffin took almost all of the snaps, and Ruffin was playing some at a safety position when he wasn't corner. Now, Bishop, consensus All-American, currently in the Steelers camp last I checked. Ruffin did not get the honors, but he graded out almost the same as Ruffin. If he'd had a couple of interceptions, he probably would have gotten more respect. But he is going to go down in history as one of my all-time favorite West Virginia players because he has the heart and spirit of a Mountaineer. He worked his butt off. He earned everything, and whatever he was asked to do, he did. Now, I can't guarantee he didn't gripe about it in the locker room, but I got the impression not. And he did not give up a lot of yardage. He did a good job. Bishop did a good job. They both were graded by PFF well above average. Safeties. People complain about the job the safeties did, and there appeared to be issues there. But I think it was more that the safeties were having to do too much because the linebackers and the Bandit Spur had issues with coverage. And Wilson, people gripe about, well, he wasn't covering well. If you check, he did better and better. His best games were the second half of the season, and they were good games. He wasn't asked to do a lot of coverage at Georgia State, Georgia Southern, and so he's been learning, and he learned well. He's going to be, there's every reason to expect him to be very good this year. Now, for comparison, here's what we've got this year. Boyce, Washington, Fagan, Garnes, Hollis, Spells, Jackson, Crandall. Burks, Joseph, Wilson, Tagaloa, Nelson, Jackson, Tarnew, Jennings, Cross, Henry. Now, Joseph, Tarnew, Fagan, Garnes, Hollis, Crandall, transfers. Let's see, Jennings, Cross, Henry, Boyce, and Washington, freshmen. Now, Cross, and Jennings, both are good enough. They may play as freshmen. Definitely on special teams, and Jennings will probably get some time in at Spur. But we essentially have pretty much twice as many players available than we did last year. And that's not really counting the freshmen. A lot of them are transfers. But, okay, Spells injured. So we have a question there. We're not sure what the injury is or when he'll be back. But now, Jackson, Tagaloa, and Nelson are not freshmen any longer. We don't know how good they are. Haven't had a chance to see them, but they're not freshmen. Burks, strong and is going to be used in a way that suits his abilities. Well, that's the plan, because we now have the people to allow Burks to move around more. Wilson, I just said, hey, he was coming on last year. Joseph and Hollis are, power conference transfers, taking a path very similar to Beanie Bishop, but they come in with, let's say, better numbers than Bishop did. And they were both working on campus over spring break when everybody else was gone. That bodes well. Now, Hollis didn't look all that good in the spring game, but good grief, he'd only, been working with the team for spring camp. That's not a lot of time to get ready. And Joseph was injured and didn't play in the spring game. But both of those guys, it is very reasonable to expect them to do very well. So right off the, we've got Burks, Joseph, Wilson, and Hollis. Reasonable to expect those four to do well. So that leaves us looking. Tarnew, there's a lot to like about his film. Probably going to use him at safety rather than corner, but he could play both. Again, Jackson, not a freshman. Nelson, not a freshman. We don't know what they're going to be doing. Garnes and Crandall come in with very high expectations. They played at a lower conference level. That's what worries people. But they come in with good film, good expectations, and I say this a lot. They were looked at by Drew Fabianich. If he approved of them, we have very good reason to think they will pan out. Now, Crandall is young, so he may, not be as good this year as we want him to be. He's coming in as, second-year player. So, hey, if he doesn't pop this year, That's okay, because look at all those guys we've got ahead of him. Garnes and Hollis are currently expected to be the starters. And those are two good players. If one of them doesn't turn out, we have a bunch of others. And that, if nothing else, if you compare last year to this year we have options. Last year, we did not have options at safety or corner. We played with the limitations we had, which also meant guys played way more than they should have. Most of them had to cut back on special teams that they were on, which then, worsened any issues with special teams. This year, if 3 of the new guys don't work out, it doesn't matter, because we have others. Even if you are just looking in terms of odds, if you knew nothing really about these players, and if we didn't have Fabianic, the odds say enough of them will turn out well for the defensive backfield to play well. With the number and variety, type, and abilities we have in the defensive backfield, for the first time in years, the defense should be able to play a very aggressive defense, shifting around in terms of who's playing where, shifting so much it's really hard to name what the defense is, and a lot of blitzing. The Spear was blitzing a fair amount last year. We'll see that a lot this year. But Spear and Bandit or Spur, we've got much faster people at Spur. We've got a specialized edge rusher in TJ Jackson, and the linebackers. They are likely my next reasonable doubt subject. And hey, it's the 4th of July, so I am looking at that with relish. Having said that, I probably should go away before anybody throws something at me for the puns. So I think it is far more reasonable to expect the defensive backfield to do well rather than badly. I think they will do very well. I've said before, this is going to be a top 3 defense in the conference. And it is going to be a very fun defense to watch. I'm looking forward to every moment. Well, hopefully every moment of it. There'll probably be a breakdown here or there, and it may be mine. So, meanwhile, hope it's been a good 4th for you. Hope the 5th is better. And let's just hope, what's the saying here? May the best of your past be the worst of your future. I like that one. It's better than have a good day. But have a good day anyway. So long.